easy for our parents. My father was interned in a camp by the French. It wasn't a concentration camp, it was an internment camp. And he was away from us, I think, maybe about 9 months. And my mother was interned also in one of those camps, but fortunately for a very brief time.
When I was in the ghetto, we got a ration, a slice of bread a day and soup. That was all we got. People were dying of starvation. It was very bad. And my mother used to take a piece of bread. I was one of 4 children. And break up bread in 4 pieces and give us an extra piece of bread. And I didn't know where the bread is coming from. But one day I saw what she's doing. And I said, no, Mommy, I won't eat your bread. You will not survive. And with tears in her eyes, she looked at me and she said, please, don't say anything. You're so young. Maybe one of you will survive and tell the world.
While we were going through it, we were running and hiding and hoping to survive. Every day was a challenge. When I was 7 and hiding in our cellar, my parents told me that they were going to put a note on my coat and send me out through the barbed wires of the ghetto and say on the note, someone who finds this child, please raise her, because we're going to die by our own hand. By going on they told me they were going to the train tracks. They were going to lay down and kill themselves with my grandmother. I was 7, and being without my parents was untenable, unthinkable for me. So at 7 years old, I said to them, if you were going to give me away, why did you ever give birth to me? I don't know where they came from, but they decided not to do that. Instead, my father tunneled our way into another house. Long story. But that moment changed, as many other moments changed my life.
When I went to Auschwitz, I was 14 years old. I didn't know what's happening. My whole family was taken away. And life, there was no, you can't believe what was going on in Auschwitz. It was so bad. 79 people in my family perished in Auschwitz in the crematoriums, and I'm the only one that survived. Life in Auschwitz, you can't imagine. You never thought you'll come out of there. We were beaten. I was working on roads. When I came to Auschwitz, we were led out in a field. For 3 days and 3 nights we were on trains. And when we came out in a field, we didn't know where we were, what's happening. And chimneys were spitting out. I need to have a drink, 1 second. Chimneys were spitting out smoke and fire. And it was a terrible stench in the air. And we thought, oh, this must be tanneries where they make leather, because it was like leather, the smell. And nobody understood what's going on. And then they selected people. We came out of the trains, and we were standing in line, and and on the side were trucks waiting, and we didn't know what's happening. And there were people from the camps that helped us come down the trains. And we were standing and waiting, and Mengele, if you know who Mengele is, he was going around picking out people to go to the right and the left. The people that were the children and older people, they put on the trucks, and we envied them because we were so tired from 3 days on the road. And the rest, they marched us. We came closer to our camp. It was barbed wire all around, and Germans and towers watching us with guns. And we saw a sign, Arbeit macht frei. And a band was playing in the front of the camp. And we thought it's not so bad. We saw barracks from far. We came through the gate, and we were put overnight in a big barrack, and we were put tattoos on our arm, our hair was shaved, and we were beaten to run through cold showers. And this is the only shower I had in Auschwitz. I was there 2 years, almost 2 years. We didn't have water to bathe, we didn't have water to drink, we didn't have bathrooms, we had to go outside, and we were beaten every day, and every day was dead bodies, and every day was selected. We had to wait outside of the barrack. We were counted twice a day to make sure nobody ran away. And when I came to Auschwitz, the rails didn't go to the crematoriums. The crematoriums were in Birkenau, about 3-4 miles away, and we had to walk from Auschwitz to Birkenau. And we had to go out, and then they started to put rails closer to the crematoriums, to Birkenau. So I walked on the roads, carrying sand and rocks and building tracks to go to the crematoriums. And later, when people came, the trains came 24 hours a day and night, and people were taking off from the trains. Some were selected to go to the barracks, and the rest were taken straight on the trucks to the crematoriums. So being in Auschwitz, I was thinking always, maybe I will survive. Maybe I'll be the one to tell my mother's story. But we never thought we'll come out of that, because starvation from the people that I came into the camp in the hundreds, in the thousands, only 12 of us survived. So you can imagine life in Auschwitz. We were hungry, we were covered with lice and sores, we were beaten, and every day were dead bodies on the job because they didn't work fast enough. And dogs used to rip apart people, and I was so lucky to come. I don't know how I came out. People say to me, how did you survive? I don't know, I was just lucky. I had 3 sons. When they were young, I had a tattoo on my arm. And they used to say, Mommy, what is this on your arm? And since they were small, you always used to tell them what they could understand. And I told them, one time a man came to my door to do some work for me. And he saw my tattoo on the arm. And he said, shame on you, a lady with a tattoo. And he didn't understand what it means. In those years, people didn't put tattoos on them. And I called him in the house, I sat him down, and I told him I didn't do it. And I told him what happened to me in the camps. And he apologized, and the next day he brought me some food to apologize to me. But when my children asked me, Mommy, what is it? And I always told my children, I told them there was a very bad man, and he didn't like the Jewish people, and he did harm to Jewish people. And I told them as much as they could understand. And when I went to the schools, the students used to ask me, do you hate the Germans? How do you feel about the Germans now? And I said to them, I never wanted to talk about hate. I said, this is not my purpose to come here and talk to you. I want you to know what hate does and what it did to people. So I didn't come to talk about hate. I came to talk about peace and love to each other. And that's my story.
Well, you heard Rita say that she used to go a lot to schools. And this is one of the things that we could do. What you could do is, if your grandmother did not write down her story, if your parents did not write down her story, you should, and I hope your parents are still with you, you sit with your parents, record it, and then write it down. I think that's very, very important, because when you will have a family, then you can say, children, your great-grandmother, that's what you went through. This is what we can give our children, so that they know it's not just a story that somebody wrote in a history book, but there were real people flesh and blood who experienced it. This last summer, I wrote a book called Best Friends, a band that survived Hitler, and it's basically based on many of my own experiences. It's very important, again, that Rita mentioned, to educate in schools, not to wait till the adults like you are, but go to the schools, which I do at times as well, and share with them. Because if we share with them, then they will know what dangers are lurking and what they can do as individuals to help prevent something like this from happening again.
I think that we have a responsibility to teach for ourselves and to teach people to be open-minded to people of different backgrounds and races and faiths, because we were discriminated against and we shouldn't do this to other people. I think that we should be grateful that we are alive and survived it and give back for that to society for that reason.